Yeah, welcome into a Wednesday edition of KC Sports Tonight. Jared Koller here, Greg Daly in the background. Shout out Greg Daly and Gabe Swartz here in the chair, where it's a Chiefs headlined show because they return to practice for the first time in a while, and they're the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs. So there's always reason to talk about them. Patrick Mahomes took the podium today. Basically, what I thought stood out to me was talking about his relationship with Juju Smith-Schuster, which we've seen now take on a new level of importance than what we thought, back when they signed him. Also talking about his bye week. He was at the K for the Royals game. Your impressions of QB1 returning to One Arrowhead Drive?
He once again went on the record and was complimentary of his bosses, them being Brett Veach and Andy Reid, for what is put around him, which I think is one of the more admirable, noble things for him to say, considering that I don't think to anyone's fault the wide receiver room has once again, the troops are depleted, and that's largely because of an unlucky injury to Hollywood Brown, an unlucky injury to Rashee Rice, that he played, sadly, a role in doing so. So, yeah, I think that what we've heard from Andy Reid this week, what we've heard from Patrick Mahomes this week, is them reassuring people that things will be okay in the event that no moves get made at the deadline. It doesn't mean that I truly believe them that no moves will be getting made at the deadline, but I think that they're trying to stir belief in the room that they had a really successful game against New Orleans and scored 26 points despite being 2 of 7
in the red zone.
Yeah. So the pieces are there. I think it's going to have to. Oops. We were very excited in preseason about the high flying. Oh, the deep ball is going to be back and such. And now I think that they're back to the 2022 offense, where if they're going to be successful, it's going to be because they pick you apart, and then they have to be better in the red zone. And that's one of those things where statistically they've been awful in the red zone. They've been one of the worst teams in the league in the red zone. But if that just regresses to league average, the offense would look a lot better.
It's interesting you say regress to the 2022 offense instead of the 2023, because given how well the defense is played, I would take the 2022 offense. No?
Yeah, the 2022 offense. I'm saying the best version of the 2024 offense now would look more like the 2022 offense, because it's going to have to center around
as compared
running
to
the ball well, and then Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster, whereas the best version of the 2023 offense was when they got things clicking with Rashee Rice.
I don't know. I think it might be Travis Kelce and then by committee, as far as I don't know if Juju Smith-Schuster is now this team's number one wide receiver.
But I don't think that there is a number one wide receiver on the team. I think that he's the most trusted wide receiver on the roster. And because of that, he will be asked to do more.
Yeah, but I mean, I think if you had to pick one, you'd pick him, but I wouldn't categorize the offense like that, because I think there's going to be games where Justin Watson has the bigger day, where McCall Hardman has the bigger day, where Noah Gray or Jody Fort, like Jody Fort's and Austin Wiley. Is that his name? Austin Wiley?
Jared
Wiley. How did I forget that? I was thinking of
Austin Wiley. Andrew Wiley.
Writer, Andrew Wiley, Jared Wiley.
Wow.
Listen, it's been a long baseball season, okay? I'm recovering, all right? I'm still heartbroken.
Jeez.
Thank you for putting up with me, Kansas City. I think I had forgotten how excited Chiefs fans were during training camp for all the deep balls that we did see in St. Joe, and now I'm sad because we haven't seen that, and I don't think we're going to see that. So they're adjusting, but Gabe, what I'm most encouraged by, they're adjusting and still winning, which I think is incredibly hard to do in the National Football League, because teams that aren't adjusting find ways to lose. And the Chiefs might lose this weekend for the first time. San Francisco's a good team. It's on the road. But the fact that they've been able to weather the storm and still be in the driver's seat for not only a playoff spot, but potentially even the number one seed, I think is a great sign.
The numbers are just really odd. Like Patrick Mahomes has the lowest average depth of target of anyone in the Next Gen Stats era, which goes back to 2016, which is not ideal. It's not the way that you would want to utilize one of the greatest quarterbacks and arms in NFL history. and B is also kind of telling of what they're capable of doing and what he trusts with the offensive line and the receivers and all that kind of mix. They're also number one in rushing success rate in terms of overall plays, and that is like being able to pick up like 4 or 5 yards on first down, being able to pick up first downs on third and fourth downs. So they're really good at situationally running the ball, but they're not explosive in any way. They're actually, as an offense, they have the lowest explosive rate of any team in the league. It's worse than the Browns, and the Browns are one of the worst offenses.
Can you think of a long run this year? You can't.
No, because everything is like 7 or 8 yards, which is a lot of effective runs, but there's nothing where it's like, man, that was a highlight 18-yard
Even Kareem Hunt,
run.
like that's where I do our archiving here at KCTV5, and so like the Kareem, so like, you know, when there's a big play to Juju Smith-Schuster or whatever, I make sure we have that for future use. I go through at the end of, I'm like, I don't have a whole lot of Kareem Hunt in there because
it's a first down run for 6 yards.
Yeah, and like that, those aren't, we don't archive every single play, you know. But that's why I give credit to Andy Reid for keeping this offense afloat, and also for hiring Steve Spagnuolo back all these years ago. Because man, the fact that now for a second straight year the Chiefs' defense has led Kansas City to a successful season. Steve Spagnuolo deserves the most credit, but great job, Andy Reid, for befriending Steve Spagnuolo many years ago and for giving him a chance after some teams didn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's hiring Steve Spagnuolo is going to that and the organization drafting Patrick Mahomes are like the two things, aside from Andy Reid's just offensive genius by himself. It's two of the things that situationally are going to, you'll look back and be like, those are the sliding doors moments of one of the 3 best coaches in NFL history. And like, that's crazy to think about, but that's
sure.
I mean, ever since he arrived, it's been really, really solid defense. And then the last 2 years, it's been elite defense.
No, it's nice to have those moments, especially turn so positive after so long, because how different are things if Dee Ford isn't lined up off sides? How different are things if Jamal Charles doesn't get hurt in the first quarter of the 38-10 game? You know, like Marcus Mariota catch a pass, Le'Veon. But like if James Harrison wasn't held by Eric Fisher against the Steelers, like there's so many of those turning point things that went the wrong way. To have such a win by hiring Steve Spagnuolo, it deserves so much credit.
Yes.
So the other Chiefs news of the day, Clark Hunt spoke to the media today as annual bye week availability, and Gabe kind of gave an update on the stadium, which it's interesting. I had kind of forgotten the stadium thing was much of a thing for both for the Royals. I kind of were thinking, but for the Chiefs as well, like this is something that they continue to work on, and it's a conversation that it sounds like we're going to be having. Obviously, we're going to have the stadium conversation for a long time, but like it doesn't sound like we're going to get a definitive update soon.
No, and if there was anything that we learned from the last go-around of at least their neighbors across the parking lot, it's that when one of these teams tells you that there's a specific or a targeted date in mind to make a decision, holding them to it is not always the likeliest outcome. So even saying just the spring is a broad enough timeline that the Chiefs kind of have the door open to actually making an announcement next year.
What's the spring? Doesn't spring technically go to like June or something? Isn't it?
It goes until, man, we're going to really test ours. Yeah.
Which is nuts. Okay,
yeah,
let's look this up. Last day, this is live and
just look up the timeline of spring 2025.
June 20th. So when they say spring, and then they could even
that
say,
means they could
July.
technically announce it post next year's draft.
Yes. And they'd be like, yeah, we told you. So I don't know if I love that, just because I would like some kind of certainty and clarity around the situation. But also, it's a $1 billion decision, so I understand, not wanting to rush it. And now, like, how much of things on the Royals front changed after this successful of a season? I don't know. I don't think that should have had an impact, but to some people it did. So I don't know, but it was good to hear from Clark Hunt. I also think he deserves a lot of credit when you talk about those turning points in the organization. His ability to get Andy Reid to sign in Kansas City when other teams wanted him. I think Clark Hunt kind of gets lost in the credit, which he does not play as big of a role as Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce or whatnot. But it was good. It was good to hear from Clark Hunt. So overall, Gabe, final thoughts on the Chiefs? Are you expecting them to have a perfect record the next time we talk next weekend?
I'm still indecisive on who I think wins Sunday, but we were discussing this yesterday. Marlia and I were, of just how huge this matchup feels to people in the Bay Area, and how it feels like another game for Chiefs fans. It's another big one. Like, the schedule is just filled with primetime matchups and with teams who are going to give their everything to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes said this is like the one on the schedule, and I think that's because he's capable of getting up for a lot of matchups. But for Chiefs fans, they don't necessarily have to feel the urgency, because it doesn't feel like one of those things where if the Chiefs lose, the other team's fan base is going to be able to hold this over you. It's like, well, we would still hold 2 Super Bowl titles over Niners fans. And
even by Patrick Mahomes standards, as someone who listens to a lot of his sound, I don't think he played this game up more than he would like the Bills or the Bengals or the Ravens. Like, maybe even less.
He just said it was a big one, and
he said it's about as big
opponent.
as a regular season game, which it's a Super Bowl rematch 2 times.
Yeah.
So we'll see. For those of you that wanted to see Marlia Kimbler and Neil Jones Day, they both said, Jared, take a hike. We've got work to do, and hence why. And
therefore, you'll see their work later.
Yeah, exactly. They are busy working on some stories that you can watch on KCTV5. Hence, again, the downgrade for Gabe and I. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Gabe, let's talk a little Kansas basketball, because had Monday been a normal KC Sports Tonight show, we would have, but I wanted to make it all about the Royals. Shocker, I know. But there are lots of other awesome things going on here in Kansas City, including the number 1 ranked college basketball team in the country. Kansas, second straight year, they've earned that spot. 5th time in program history. Comes a few days before Late Night in the Fog on Friday. Your overall preseason feel for what Kansas basketball could be in the coming season?
Well, you mentioned Greg Daly earlier, and him being in the background here, and we were discussing when the AP poll came out on Monday that the Big 12 was putting out like, we've got 5 of the top 10 teams in the AP top 10, and nobody's ever done this before. And Greg said, I kept counting. He's like, I kept getting to 4, and I was like, who's the 5th? And then he realized the Arizona Wildcats at number 10 are the 5th Big 12 team, and kind of reprogramming the mind. I think that's one of those things where it's like, you just look up and down the Big 12 rankings. I was looking through the advanced analytics on Ken Pom earlier this week, because they came out at the end of last week, and every team in the Big 12, I believe, is in the top 89 in Ken Pom, all 16 of them. So there's not going to be – you're going to hear this a lot when we get into February, and I know that KU doesn't have to worry about the bubble. They're always a top 4 seed, but – when you hear K-State and when you hear other Big 12 teams, they're going to say there's no bad losses in this league, and that's the truth. There's just so many quality teams in the Big 12. I'm interested to see with KU that a lot of the core, they've got the DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams back for multiple years. They've got Hunter Dickinson in his second year. Everything around those guys, it's going to be a matter of them improving, because I don't think that anything is really changing in terms of what the strengths or weaknesses are of those 3 guys, of Harris, Adams, and Dickinson. But they have to be able to have guys who can shoot the ball around them, because they were an atrocious 3-point shooting team last year.
Yeah, I mean, but the guys that they brought in to shoot weren't the shooters that they needed to be. Talking about Nick Timberlake and Johnny Furphy, neither of them are back this year. Furphy going to the NBA, so it'll have some familiarity roster wise, but also some new additions. Some that you've maybe seen on the local front. Talking about Zeke Mayo, but Gabe, you saying that made me kind of. I love college basketball season. I don't look forward to how down Kansas fans are probably going to be at times during this year, because there's going to be a decent amount of losses to their Jayhawks. And I don't think that is an indictment on the team. It's just how good the Big 12 is. And, I think KU, by the time the tournament rolls around, I'm probably going to pick them to go to the Final Four, because partly the last two seasons they didn't make it to the Final Four, in part because they had bad luck with injuries and Bill Self. I really like the makeup of this team, but they're going to lose some games in January and in February, maybe in a couple in a row, maybe at Allen Fieldhouse, and KU fans aren't used to that. The expectation is to win every night, which that should be the expectation. But in this new look Big 12, I don't think that's fair. And so I'm not looking forward to the negativity that's going to be around those few losses.
Yeah, but I think that's the thing is the Big 12 with how large the league is and just with conference expansion of all the leagues, because you've gotten away from the home and home round robin, whoever wins the league, like, you're not going to be able to hold on to the league title streak that Big 12 that KU fans were able to for so long, because they used to have control over, we'll get everybody in our own building, and we'll win the key ones on the road to win everything. Now it's going to come down to, do you play at Baylor? Do you play at Arizona? Do you play at Houston? Do you get just Arizona at home or whatever? Like KU, for example, gets Arizona only at Allen Fieldhouse this year. That's an advantage to their schedule.
Sure.
So taking advantage of the years where the schedule benefits you is going to be huge. Iowa State took a ton of advantage out of it last year. In terms of getting a lot of their toughest games in Hilton Coliseum, and they won the league. Or they won the conference tournament.
Yes.
They were top 2 or 3 in the league.
Right. They
so
were right there.
I think that's the thing to watch out for. I will just say, in terms of the KU roster and the newcomers, I'm extremely high on Rylan Griffin. I think he will be the guy in terms of shooting it that will stretch the floor for KU this year.
He's on the record, and it's talking KU basketball in October is so unique because we really don't know how this roster is going to shake up as far as who's going to contribute in what ways. I mean, this time last year we didn't think Johnny Furphy was going to be an NBA player the coming year. You know, I think back to even more in the pack, like Ochai Agbaji was going to redshirt as a freshman, and he came on, and you just never really know how people are going to, like, even last year, Kevin McCullough came out of the gates looking like one of the best players in college basketball, then an injury, and then really set back. Like, KU beat UConn early in the year. They beat Houston. Like, KU was really good early on, and that was in November, December. We're still in October. And so what, Gabe, to your point that I do like, is how many dudes they got, though. That, if it's your guy, if it's Zeke May, or, insert name here, they got a lot of – Zach Clements is back. I mean, I feel like he's been there for – like, I feel like he redshirted for 3 straight years. Like, but if you told me Zach Clements would play an important role in this team, I'd believe you. And
the thing with KU hoops is, like, they're so often what makes Bill Self special is that the team that shows up to that Champions Classic in November, it looks so different in March.
That's
and
what I mean.
Usually it looks different for the better.
Yes.
Last year was the rare time.
Agreed.
And I would say 2019 was one of the rare times where the team has regressed throughout the year. And most of the time that has just been a factor of injury luck.
Did that 2019 team start off strong?
Yeah, and then it was the number 1 team. It was undefeated, 10-0, and then Udoka Azubuike hurt his wrist. They lost to Arizona State, and everything went down.
I'm thinking of the year before. Never mind. Well, actually, even a lot of successful years in Kansas. They run together to a degree. But also, I'm fired up for college basketball season for KU, but also for Kansas State, who I think will be better than people realize. They did well in the transfer portal, and then Mizzou can only go up from last year, and I think
true.
Dennis Gates,
yes, they can.
It's so spin zone there, but I think Dennis Gates showed in year 1 that he can put together a quick turnaround, and so we'll see if they do. They've got a local product there as well in Mark Mitchell, so that's exciting. Okay, now for the more pressing topic that's coming up here this weekend. Also, Late Night of the Fog Friday. I forget if I mentioned that. That's part of why we're talking about Kansas basketball here in October. It won't be a daily topic right now, but want to at least give KU some love. This weekend, Gabe, all 3 local teams in action for the first time on the same Saturday in a little bit. Out of these 3 matchups, Auburn at Mizzou, Houston at Kansas, Kansas State at West Virginia, is there a top storyline that jumps out when you headline them?
I would say I was looking at the gambling lines for this weekend, and
you are a degenerate gambler.
Cannot believe that Mizzou is only favored by 5.5. That one stood out to me. I couldn't believe that they were only favored by 27.5 against UMass on Saturday. May or may not have profited off of that one.
Okay. Which we do not encourage gambling here at KCTV5. Okay.
Yeah, that is not an endorsement. It's just a statement of fact.
Yep.
And then I will say I'm absolutely interested in seeing K-State at West Virginia. There's this I think, like, widely held belief that Milan Puskar Stadium is in Morgantown is some incredibly tough place to play.
I don't think it is.
And all these kinds of things. Under Neil Brown, he's been there for, I believe, 5 or 6 years at this point. How many top 25 wins do you think he has?
3.
1.
Yeah.
West Virginia doesn't win these big games.
I agree.
I think that's one of those things where now I've been seeing that floating around in K-State Twitter this week. I'm wondering, do they underestimate it? Because West Virginia last week, they got Iowa State. Big game, 2 weeks in a row. Is it one of those where, they're going to get one of them? I don't know.
I don't
but
think so.
K-State backs against the wall on Saturday night, and they got out of it against Colorado.
And I think that was a better atmosphere than West Virginia.
Will be. Yeah.
Especially right now under Deion. Maybe traditionally West Virginia is better than Colorado. I'm fine with that argument. But, Colorado, the late-night game, that place was rocking.
Yeah.
And they survived that after getting punched in the face with adversity there at the end of the game. That was an impressive win for Kansas State. And they've already – BYU, that was a tough place to play, and they didn't play well there. So, the West Virginia environment, I don't think that doesn't work.
Yeah.
What worries me more is, K-State is susceptible to they're not a perfect team. They have weaknesses, especially at times, and if West Virginia plays well, but I really like Kansas State in this game.
Yeah.
I think their biggest scare was last week, and I think they proved a lot, especially with the way DJ Giddens is running. I feel like he has to be one of the more underrated Kansas State Wildcats in recent history, because he was kind of overshadowed by Deuce Vaughn. Last year, he didn't get all the carries. Even this year, brought in Dylan Edwards. Look up how many yards DJ Giddens has.
He's 4th in the country in rushing yards.
And then for his career, though, at Kansas State, he's going to rank high in the history books, and I feel like he doesn't get the flowers he deserves. So I think when you have that kind of running game, that helps you win on the road, right?
Yeah, you'd think so.
I would think so. But to your point about Mizzou, I understand the UMass line a little bit more because Mizzou was coming off just such a terrible performance. You didn't know if they'd show up at 11 a.m. in the middle of nowhere against a game that they knew they didn't need to show up for. They did show up, and they won easily. But at home against an Auburn team that hasn't won a conference game this year.
And an Auburn team that...
they got talent, but
Hugh Freeze made some insane statements in the press conference this week about Eli Drinkwitz doing more with less when his recruiting classes have just been better than what Auburn has been able to put together. I know that the spread is saying it's 5.5 or 6. I think Mizzou wins by multiple scores.
Yeah, it's to the point though that I was very confident in this Mizzou team until Texas A&M. I was not freaking out after Boston College. I was not freaking out after Vanderbilt. But
I don't think that this is the game that would show that there's still problems. I think that that would be going to Bama.
Well, right.
Clearly.
Even if there wasn't a problem. But that's what we're no, I think I disagree because I think this is a game where Auburn has talent. They're an SEC team. And if Mizzou plays like they did against Vanderbilt, they very easily could lose. And I no longer think that I think there's a possibility that they could play like that. Would I bet it? No. I think Mizzou's going to win and fairly easily. But I can't say that with, for sure, confidence after what we saw against A&M, which that's my question, Gabe. Are Mizzou fans putting too much into one game?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that that was the culmination of their problems and that they are more flawed than they probably were led to believe going into the year. But at the same time, I just don't think that Auburn is the team that shows them the problems. Okay. Hugh Freeze is not it.
If they need to win this game, obviously, if beginning of the year the dream was a college football playoff spot because you thought the schedule would allow that. But the way in which they lost to Texas A&M, even if they finished 10-2, which at the beginning of the season, Gabe, if you told me Mizzou finished 10-2 and their only losses were at A&M, at Alabama, I would say they make the college football playoff. But if they go out and get housed by Alabama, you can look, and Oklahoma not looking great so far this year, I don't think a 10-2 record gets Mizzou into the college football playoff. Is that fair? I don't know. But talk about just the fact that Mizzou could go 10-2 in the SEC and it be a disappointment is kind of crazy, but I think that's in the realm of what we're talking about here.
I think they'll probably end up at 9-3, but
that's what I agree. Or they could beat Alabama and never lose again and win the national championship. We don't know. You don't know that.
Oh, it should scare Mizzou fans that Alabama has had their stinkers against Vandy and South Carolina. And
should Mizzou fans root for Alabama to win this weekend against Tennessee?
I don't think that really matters one way or the other. No. In fact, I think if Alabama loses this weekend, it makes it all the more likely.
Right. That's where I'm thinking. I think you maybe want Alabama to win so that they don't come in firing. Either way, let's now shift to the Jeff Sims portion of the program. Your thoughts on the Arizona State Sun Devils?
It's going to be a tough one Saturday morning. I think it'll be a 90-10 run pass split for the Sun Devils in Cincinnati.
That was a question Gabe Swartz was not prepared for. He didn't know I'd break that out, but as I said, I do read Twitter and I see things and I go, oh,
I'll be asking Brad Stevens for his Jeff Sims breakdown later this evening.
Nah, I mean, because he played against Colorado last year. Wasn't that
it was ugly
before Chubba Purdy took over?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what? Forks up. All right. Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
That's the mantra.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out Melanie Bride. Shout out Ryan Hennessy here at KCTV5. That'll wrap us up for this Wednesday program. Thanks for hanging out with us. Everybody tune in to KC5 to see what the heck Neil Jones and Marley Campbell have been working on, that they could big time a streaming program like this. They're doing great work, and I will see you on the 620 News. James Shields salutes you. Have a great night, everyone.